Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing my ethnography project on fictive kinship, specifically focusing on step-parents. Fictive kinship refers to family-like bonds and relationships that are not based on blood, adoption, or marriage, but on close emotional ties that provide emotional and practical support, oftentimes in situations where traditional family structures are absent or disrupted. These bonds are formed through emotional investment, caregiving, and daily interactions rather than blood ties. My research question is, how do people define kinship beyond biological ties, more in terms of social relationships that form families within human groups, reflecting the function of kinship within a social context? I hypothesized that step-parents take on these roles because caregiving provides emotional fulfillment, and that over time they may come to accept their stepchildren as family. Also, that daily interactions are key in creating functional kinship beyond biology. This topic is personally meaningful to me as I have experienced a step-parent relationship in my own life. My stepfather has been a huge presence in my life since I was 10, and I've seen firsthand how these bonds evolve over time. Before I present my findings, I want to provide some background from research on fictive kinship. Research shows that fictive kinship can function in society. According to my first research article, there are 3 interpretations of fictive kinship: supplementary kinship, verbal expressions of familiarity, and validation of association. Supplementary kinship emphasizes how individuals can create bonds beyond blood ties. There is a new kind of group researchers have identified known as a quasi-family. In simple terms, a quasi-family is not a biological connection between individuals. It is more so made up through supportive relationships with one another. Verbal expressions, such as calling a step-parent mom or dad, signal recognition of these parental roles. Validation of association highlights the emotional support these relationships provide through other forms of basic assistance, including social validation. My research article 2 expands this by showing that step-parent relationships are often the hardest to build. Blended families are more complex than nuclear families, as relationships must navigate prior family dynamics. Step-parents can gradually earn recognition through care, shared responsibilities, and consistency. This research reinforces the idea that family is culturally constructed and not just defined by biology. My research article 3 categorizes step-parents into 4 different types, including replacement parents, parental assistants, bonus parents, and even friends, showing that step-parental roles are diverse and can be negotiated over time. Understanding these typologies can explain the difference between the experiences that I observed in my 3 participants. With this context, I will now explain my methods. I used a combination of interviews and participant observation. I interviewed 3 step-parents from my own extended family. The first participant was my own stepfather, who again was in my life since I was 10. The second participant was my cousin's stepmother, who entered her stepchildren's lives when they were much older, in their 20s. And finally, I interviewed another stepfather who has been in his stepdaughter's life since she was 4 years old. She is now 18. I also observed these families during gatherings like birthday parties and Thanksgiving, taking detailed notes on interactions, expressions of love, and verbal versus nonverbal communication. These methods allowed me to compare how different step-parent relationships develop and how fictive kinship functions in practice. Now I will present the findings from these interviews and observations. Across all 3 interviews, I noticed recurring themes about caregiving, emotional investment, and recognition as family. For my first question based on investments over time, I asked, how did your investment in your stepchild change over time? My father described his care as evolving naturally. At first, I knew I had to be there for you because your dad wasn't around. but over the years, it went beyond an obligation. The more time we spent together, the more I cared for you like you were my own daughter. The stepmother of the older children initially found it challenging. In the beginning, it felt forced. His kids were older already and they had a mom. But slowly, small moments like cooking together or talking about their day helped us build trust in a different way, more like respect and companionship than the parental love they already had. The second stepfather faced boundary struggles. He said early on it was confusing. I didn't want to overstep or compete with her biological dad. But over time, I started to feel a strong responsibility and attachment. There was always that tension about boundaries. For my second question, based on motivations for caregiving, I asked, what motivates you to take on step-parental roles? Participant 1 was motivated by providing the father figure I never had. Participant 2 was trying to fulfill an emotional and friendly role through her moral obligations of being a good person. Participant 3 showed a commitment and desire to be present because they grew a lovely bond, despite uncertainty about his role. For my third question, based on recognition as a family, I asked, at what point did you stop feeling like an outsider and start feeling like family? My stepfather recalled the moment he felt fully accepted. He said it was around the time when you started calling me dad. That is when I felt fully accepted as part of the family. The stepmother described trust as a signal, as familial recognition, even if she wasn't seen as a replacement parent. The third participant said, I would say it took many years. When she started sharing personal struggles and wanting me involved in decision-making, like letting me know who she was hanging out with or where she was going, made me feel like I had some say in what happened with her. Some common themes of challenges and validations between the three participants included early feelings of being an outsider. Frustration would arise when contributions weren't recognized immediately, but persistence in caregiving and emotional presence led to an eventual validation. Small actions, daily interactions, and shared experiences emerged as the most powerful indicators of functional kinships. These patterns confirm, challenge, and even expand upon my hypothesis. These findings support my hypothesis in several ways. The first is that emotional fulfillment motivates caregiving. Participants describe deriving satisfaction from their roles, confirming that step-parenting can be deeply rewarding even without biological ties. Second, kinship develops over time. Gradual acceptance and emotional bonding illustrate that step-parents may redefine their roles, as seen with my stepfather being called dad. And finally, daily interactions do matter. Small yet consistent actions, like helping with routines or sharing experiences, were much more influential in creating family bonds than biological connections. Research Article 2 highlights that step-parent relationships are often difficult to establish, particularly with older children, which matches the stepmother's or participant 2's experience. Research Article 3 typologies help explain the different roles my participants occupied. My stepfather fits the replacement parent, the stepmother resembles a supportive companion figure, and the second stepfather oscillates between both parental assistant and bonus parent. Overall, these findings emphasize that fictive kinship fulfills essential family functions, providing emotional support, guidance, and validation even outside biological connections. When reflecting on my research, I can answer my original research question. Kinship is not solely defined by biology, but it's based on emotional investment, caregiving, and social recognition. Fictive kinship, especially in step-parent relationships, function to provide stability, support, and love. This project also impacted my personal view of kinship. I now better appreciate that family is shaped by choice and action, not just genetics. The experiences of my participants and my observations reinforce that consistent presence, care, and emotional engagement are the true foundation of family. In contemporary society, where blended families are increasingly common, understanding fictive kinship helps us recognize and validate non biological family bonds. Research like the 3 research articles underscore that these relationships are functional, meaningful, and essential to social life. Step families show us how bonds are created through care, not by blood. Thank you for watching.